Attention. Attention.
The live broadcast you have tuned into is a pre-recorded episode of the Dudes and Beer podcast. Dudes and Beer is presently traveling the vast void of time and space in an effort to find you more of the best content in the known universe. Enjoy the following transmission, and remember, if you can't be good at it. Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 207 of the Dudes and Beer podcast. I am Chris Jordan, your host. With me tonight is the amazing Mr. Michael Cargill from Central Texas Gunworks, as well as Come and Talk It Radio on 1370 AM here in Austin, as well as defense attorney JL Carpenter from the JL Carpenter Law Associates firm in Houston, Texas. How are you doing today, JL?
I'm great, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, as always, for coming on, Michael. It's always a pleasure having you in to talk about things like this. You yourself are an advocate of many, many things. You've actually, like you were saying earlier, just got done spending the whole day doing advocacy up at the state courthouse for marijuana reform, things like that.
Right, at the Texas State Capitol. So we have several bills that were up in one of the committees there, criminal jurisprudence, and one of those bills was to not necessarily decriminalize, but lower the penalty for marijuana use.
Yeah. And, of course, I'm sure we could do a whole episode on that at some point with both yourself and JL, her being a criminal defense attorney specifically tonight. We are talking about the horribly botched no-knock warrant raid that recently happened in Houston about 4 weeks ago. This happened right at the end of January, and it was just an absolute debacle of a case. I guess it started off with the police getting a anonymous tip saying that heroin was being dealt from the house. That then led to a pseudo investigation, I guess, where they actively went out and obtained a no-knock warrant from this information. It's later come out on the 15th that all the information used to obtain the warrant was false. They have found absolutely no heroin in the house, which is what the warrant was for. They found a small amount of marijuana, which, if I'm not mistaken, is decriminalized in Houston, correct, JL?
Well, if it's less than 2 ounces, they typically will just do like a diversion program, yeah.
Yeah. And, it's interesting to me, like we were saying earlier, Michael, the horrible, horrible miscarriage, not only of justice, but of police procedure here. As a criminal defense attorney, where do you stand on this, JL? How has this affected you in the way that you practice?
Well, I've been practicing criminal law since 2000, and I'm a native Houstonian. I don't watch a whole lot of local news. It just so happened that on this night, I was waiting for my husband to get home, and I was watching the local news. And I was watching this unfold live when it first came out that there were some officers who had gotten shot. So I'm watching it live, and I'm listening to the reports, and I'm watching the scene, and I'm seeing things aren't adding up from the get-go. They said that the officers were all being transported to the hospital or were already on their way to the hospital, but I was seeing 2 life flight helicopters land and another ambulance pulling up. So I knew there was more deceased bodies or hurt or injured folks there than what they were accounting for as they were given the news. And I told my husband at that point, I still saw armed officers, SWAT gear moving around. I said, this is not over. There's something that went really wrong here. But more concerning is what came out thereafter, and that was that one of the officers had put false information in his probable cause affidavit to get the search warrant, which is what we call a no-knock search warrant, where they don't have to announce that they're coming in. And so the false information was provided to a traffic court magistrate, not even somebody at the felony level or district court level.
Nice.
And a magistrate judge signed off on that warrant, expecting that what was in it, the affidavit, was true. And so the officer secured the warrant, and then the rest of this is what transpired. What I was talking to you earlier about, Chris, was on a no-knock warrant, the point of that is that they don't want to announce their presence. Officers don't want to announce their presence because they're afraid then that the folks inside will get rid of any of the drugs or guns or what the items that they're there to obtain prior to the officers being able to make entry. But the problem with that is if I'm sitting at my house with my husband and an intruder comes into my house, the first thing my husband's going to do is go for his handgun, because he has a right to protect his home, protect me, protect our family. And then if the intruder comes in and the first thing that happens is they shoot our dog, you bet that things are going to get out of hand real quickly.
Yeah.
And I don't think for 1 second that wife was reaching for an officer's gun when those officers shot her. I also wonder when the full report comes out, how many of those officers were shot with friendly fire? Because there was, I think, 17 bullet holes in the front of that house just going in, making entry. But from what I understand, the homeowner had like a 357, and that's all they found was.
That's what they said. That was the original report given on January 28th by Acevedo, was that Dennis Tuttle, the homeowner, and this is directly, y'all, from a report done by Florian Martin. You can check it out. It was posted just a few days ago, and it's literally a timeline of everything that happened in this horrible, horrible situation. And he announces that the homeowner shot the first officer with the .357 Magnum and hit him in the shoulder. When the officer fell on the couch in the living room, Tuttle's wife started making a move for the officer's shotgun and was consequently shot and killed by another officer. But when things came and shook out of the tree when was it here? I have it highlighted. I believe it is right here on the 7th. The search warrant shows that there on February 9th, the search warrant return shows property seized from the raid includes 18 grams of marijuana, 1.5 grams of cocaine, 2 shotguns, and 2 rifles. Again, no heroin and no handgun were found.
Right.
So,
and then the search
if he was
warrant,
shot by a .357, where's the .357?
Right. And in the search warrant, they listed a 9mm, which of course wasn't there as well.
Yeah, and that's just it. And you were mentioning earlier what your husband's first reaction would be, and that's one of the big reasons why I brought Michael Cargill on, because he not only owns Central Texas Gun Works, he teaches these laws to people on a daily basis. The laws of stand your ground, the laws of the castle protection, and things like that. Where does that come into play with this, Michael?
It's funny you ask that, because this homeowner was reportedly a license to carry handgun holder, so he had his handgun license. And I like how you talked about the revolver, because I'm wondering, is that a 5-shot or 6-shot revolver? Because man, that's a lot of shots coming out of just a revolver.
Yeah.
And so I definitely have some questions about that.
A whole lot.
But we teach people
coming into the house.
Yeah. We teach people in class that, if something happens, and you got to put yourself, I understand what they're saying from the police point of view, about having a no-knock raid, the fact that you don't want the person to know that you're executing this search warrant. I understand that. But then from a homeowner's point of view, in this house, the AC was going, which is actually pretty loud. It was a window air conditioner. And so because the window AC was so loud, the homeowner had the TV turned up really loud to compensate for the window air conditioner. So on top of all that, you're sitting there, you're watching TV or doing whatever you're doing. All of a sudden, the door whips open, and your dog is shot, and you turn around and all you see is these people, inside your home, a little smoke from bullets or whatever they're using, because they're using these grenades, and the purpose of the grenades is to disorient you. The purpose of the grenades is to blind you. The purpose of the grenades is to, just throw you off guard, so you're not aware about what's happening.
Sure.
That's the whole purpose of it. So you're getting this, and you're like, hey, someone's, executing a home invasion right inside my house. They're not supposed to be here. And you start firing shots. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. Protect your family. This guy's like, hey, I'm a homeowner. I'm a license to carry handgun holder. I'm where I'm supposed to be, watching the 5 o'clock news or whatever it is. And all of a sudden my door comes open. I'm going to defend myself and also my family. So, yeah. And this is what we tell people to do right here. This is it.
Yeah. And, I guess it's just a strange circumstance, and there's a reason why it is now being investigated by the FBI. All of the cases, and I want to say it was 1,400 cases. The district attorney's office announced it will be reviewing all 1,400 cases, including the 27 active ones that investigator Goins has worked on in his past 34 years. So his entire 34-year career of arrests will now be called into question.
Not only that, but today they also announced that there's another officer who's been relieved from duty, Officer Bryant, who had 800 cases that they're going to have to review as well.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and Officer Bryant was actually the one that said that he retrieved 2 baggies of heroin from Goins' car.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is that it came out later, obviously, that they never had an informant involved. So that whole part of the probable cause affidavit where they said that they had an informant make a purchase before this location, none of that was true. None of the informants were used. So that was not true. And in fact, this couple, they really didn't have any criminal history. I think the wife had like a theft by check case that was dismissed, but there was no criminal history. And I actually went to their Facebooks just to see what was on their Facebooks before all this came out. And, they liked a lot of things that were pro-law enforcement, pro-firefighters. And come to find out, the husband went to high school at Friendswood High School at the same year that my husband did.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it gets even better, because I also did the same thing you did, went to the Facebook page, and I noticed the son of the husband of the house, or, the man of the house, actually trains and teaches law enforcement tactics and things like that. He owns a self-defense type of business, and he promotes law enforcement. So, that was very odd to me.
Well, and even the neighbors came out in the end of January and quote straight up from him, even the sister of the gentleman, Tuttle's sister, was like, I don't buy it at all. Not for one hot minute. She's like, I know my brother. This was not what was happening. The
one thing that scares me about this case is that my house has a house number on it. Okay. And 3 doors down on a different street is the same number of another house, with the same address. Okay. So it has the same address as my address, but the different street name. Okay, that's the only thing that's different. So 10701.
UPS can mess it up.
Right. So check this out. So what happened one day to me was I came home in the afternoon, and there were a bunch of people in my yard, and on my roof. And what happened was this roofing company replaced my entire roof on my house because they confused my house with the house that was down the street 3 doors down.
And that was nice of them.
Yeah, it was great for me. I loved it. I got a new roof. But what scares me is if law enforcement does that. I don't know those people at that house. So if they're doing something illegal at that house and police come to my house, then, what I'm going to do if someone bursts down my door in the middle of the night or whatever it is, I'm going to defend myself. Unlike someone else,
Michael,
I'm not getting a handgun. I'm going to pull an AR. I have AR-15s and shotguns, and I'm going to defend my house in.
Yeah. Go ahead, JL.
But Michael, when this first started coming out and people were saying maybe they got the wrong house, like Michael just described, the first thing I thought was, how do you have the wrong house if you watched your informant buy from these people? You would know the house, but he didn't have an informant.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, I know the first time I started looking into it, because my mom was like, oh, my God, have you seen this going on? This is going on right down the street. And I started looking into it and everything else. And the first reports were that the mother had called into the police that there was drug activity going on. That was the initial reports from media, was that the mother had called in a report. And then later on it came out that there was a no-knock warrant involved because of the affidavit from the officer.
And I've even heard Police Chief Otto Acevedo say this as early as or as late as like a couple weeks ago, is that they still had a right to be there. And I'm confused by that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm totally confused by that.
Yeah. And
well, I also noticed that when the chief of police was giving a couple of different statements, in one of his statements, he said, at this point, we already knew who the deceased were. And he said that officers had been there and made purchases from that home before, but he didn't specifically say made purchases from these folks before. And I thought, that sounds weird. That sounds odd. And it was after that we found out that wasn't even true, that there were no prior purchases from this home.
Yeah. And what you're referring to there, he actually said it on January 30th. The warrant gives officers permission to enter the house without first announcing themselves based on probable cause, and that it would be dangerous and inhibit the investigation of the offense. And that's why they pursue a no-knock warrant. But after that, what was interesting was the union president of the Houston police saying, we're sick and tired of having targets on our back. We're sick and tired of having dirtbags trying to take our lives when all we're trying to do is protect this community and protect our families. Enough is enough. If you're the ones that are out there spreading the rhetoric that police officers are the enemy, just know we've got your number now. We're going to be keeping track of all of y'all, and we're going to make sure that we hold you accountable every time you stir the pot on our police officers.
And so that's a threat.
It pretty much boils down to one.
Well, and how ironic that they think they're protecting the public, but they just killed two innocent people.
Executed them in their home, including their dog.
And
executed them.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I find most disturbing. And I know we dealt with Art Acevedo here in Austin.
Unfortunately.
I guess he'd be an all right guy to have a cup of coffee with.
He's when you're dealing with him person to person, he's a nice person. He's very cordial and all that. So he's very polite, great guy, but he should not be a police chief of any department, in this nation at all.
Yeah.
And he's proven that because we've had the same thing happen here in Austin long before he went to Houston. Exact same situation where they went to someone's home, an 18-year-old kid, because they said that this kid was selling drugs, and so they drug through their trash. Only thing they found in their trash was like some old pill bottles, prescription bottles, and then a little baggie of stems that could have been from grapes or whatever. All right, so what? So maybe it was marijuana, but maybe it was marijuana for personal use.
Sure.
Not necessarily he was a drug dealer.
Yeah.
And so they execute a warrant, went to this guy's house. His parents are workers of the state. They actually work, for the state of Texas, different government agencies. And so they execute this warrant at 5-something in the morning, just after the father had left the house to go drive for like one of the ride-sharing companies. And so he's gone. So just the son and the mother's at the home. The police pull into the front yard. They were supposed to turn on the microphone to the vehicle that they have. They say, hey, this is the Austin police. This is the address.
I have heard it right here, like outside of my home twice.
Right.
Yeah.
So what happened was they did not turn on the microphone.
Oh.
The microphone was not turned on. They didn't realize this until 2 minutes after. Well, within that 2 minutes, what had happened was they bust through the door. They throw the grenades. Boom, 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 boom. 4 grenades go off. Within 20 seconds, this 18-year-old kid grabbed the AK-47 and started returning fire. He's firing shots. Doom, 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 doom. Shoots one cop in the kneecap. They retreat, run across the street, pull back. And within 2 minutes, they figured out, hey, Lieutenant, you don't have the microphone on.
Yeah.
Turn on the microphone. Lieutenant finally turns on the microphone in the vehicle. Then as soon as they do that, guess what happens? The homeowners come out of the house with their hands up.
Yeah.
Because they never knew that those were police that were in their home.
Yeah.
They executed the dog. This was so bad that the dog was shot. The dog cries, yells, screams. The dog goes over to the bedroom, hides behind the bed and the wall. The dog continues to scream and holler. Dog then goes into the bathroom where it felt safe, screaming, hollering. You can see the blood trails of the dog running around in circles, yelling so bad. The dog then goes into the backyard. What happened? About 45 minutes after first shooting this dog, the police go into the backyard and they shoot this dog in the head, execute this dog, instead of taking this dog to the vet.
Yeah. And we see this all the time. I'm sure that you are privy to much more of these situations. How often do you see police malfeasance, things like that, go on in cases that you're defending, JL?
Well, I think that there's a few bad apples in every bunch.
Sure.
I actually am pro law enforcement as well. I think that as a criminal defense attorney, my job is to protect citizens' rights and make sure that their constitutional rights are not stomped on. And, so there's obviously a few bad seeds in every bunch, but I feel really confident in Kim Ogg as our elected district attorney in Harris County and her administration that they will be transparent in this investigation and they'll do what's right. I really do believe that, and I have confidence in that, as well as the city of Houston is not doing any more of the no-knock warrants right now. They've suspended that.
Yes, they have announced here in the last week that they have suspended the use of no-knock warrant, which is good. That's a plus.
I think what's bad is the fact that we're still allowing police agencies around this country, every single police department, to investigate themselves and then eventually find themselves of not doing anything wrong and continue on. They knew these guys were doing wrong stuff. This is not new, either one of these officers that are now suspended. This is not new because several cases of theirs have been called into question before now.
Yeah.
So if their cases have been called into question before now, and if they did do their due diligence and did an investigation, they would have found out that something was wrong and we need to remove these officers. But instead, nothing was done before now.
And they have already released one lady who is in custody, one of Officer Goins' arrests, and she's already been released when they did their quick investigation as soon as these allegations came out.
Yeah, and to know that some of the issues of the system, in all fairness, it is really a fairly self-righting system. Whenever you let it work properly, whenever people, like you said, there's always some bad apples in a bunch. There's always going to be people that abuse their authority, be it a judge, be it a police officer, be it even a DA, and it's up to us, the citizens, the people who put these people into elected office, our sheriffs, the people who are sworn, as JL said, to defend the Constitution, just like she is. She's sworn to defend your constitutional rights. And it's interesting how many people we put into office that most people have absolutely no idea what they're about. Most people don't do the due diligence on their DA. Most people don't do due diligence on judgeships. They just go in and check a box that maybe they've seen before or they've heard the name.
Well, and this is true because with every election, we lose some really great folks and we, gain some folks that really don't know what they're doing until after a while they have to educate themselves or until the system corrects itself. But I think in every profession, whether you're a defense attorney or a judge or a prosecutor or an officer in the criminal justice system, you're dealing with stuff on a daily basis that can taint you. So I think there comes a time when this officer, 34 years or however many years he was in this career, he probably became a little jaded, became a little tainted, and let that probably take over where his passion was, where he started, and maybe he lost that along the way.
And, It's easy. It's easy to fall into the loop of complacency anywhere in life. I mean, how often do you see, Michael, a store get closed down by the ATF because they just didn't dot an I, cross a T? You know what I mean? Because they just got lazy on paperwork.
Right. And you know what disturbs me, you know, on top of everything else is, like I said, the fact that, look, you know, they knew that something was wrong. And, you know, and I do love that phrase, you know, there are some bad apples, but then we also know that, you know, one bad apple will spoil the entire bunch. And so
or at least the perception of the bunch.
Right. So if you know that something is wrong, and I'm not bashing law enforcement. I do think that we need police. We absolutely need law enforcement. We need police. There's some bad people out here. Absolutely. But I'm saying, you know, we have laws, we have rules that are in place, and they need to follow those. And if they're not going to follow those, we do need an independent organization. We need a civilian organization that's going to take a look at these cases and say, hey, you know, something's wrong here. Someone needs to be, you know, either fired or prosecuted or whatever, because you clearly did something wrong. And that's not what's happening. You know, you cannot allow police departments to investigate themselves and find themselves in no wrongdoing. You know, I don't think that's the way we should do it at all.
Where do you come down on that fact, JL? Real quick before we let you go, I know you have cases in the morning, things like that, and we only have you for a limited amount of time, but where do you come down on that fact?
Well, I got to tell you, I missed what Michael said there at the end because of some technical difficulties. So can you repeat what he said?
Go ahead, Michael.
Right. So what I'm saying is that we should have an independent organization like a civilian review panel that actually has power and authority to bring charges against police, you know, when they've clearly done something wrong, did not follow procedure, you know, have the power to fire, have the power to recommend charges, you know, that are going to stick to the DA's office. And, you know, because you cannot allow, under no circumstances can you allow a police agency to investigate themselves. There's no way that a internal investigator is going to find that the police chief or lieutenant commander or lieutenant has done anything wrong, because that's their senior. And they're not going to, you know, they're not going to write a report, you know, contrary, you know, to that person. So there's no way that we can trust what they write. And this is proven by why we're at this point with the Houston Police Department. Were you able to hear that?
No, but I'm going to have to bow out. But I enjoyed being able to.
No.
Oh, no. Well, thank you so much for taking... Thank you so much for taking the time to be on. Should anybody out there, especially right now during Mardi Gras time, folks, if you aren't being careful, if you aren't using lift rides, things like that, you end up with a DWI for some silly reason, where can they go to get a hold of you and the awesome lawyers at JL Carpenter Law Associates?
If you go to jail, call JL 713-201-6767. We're also found on the internet web at jlcarpenterlaw.com.
Fantastic. JL, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, for kind of laying this down and coming at it from, I really, really wanted to talk to a criminal defense attorney about this topic. We'd love to have you on more to talk about other things as time goes on. Thank you so much for taking the time, and you have a great evening, JL.
Thanks, Chris. Y'all too.
All right. Bye-bye.
You know, I've been spending a lot of time at the Capitol, and I brought up this Houston no-knock raid to a couple different legislatures. I caught in the hallway, and I would just ask them, you know, what's your thought on, you know, the Houston no-knock raid and how that went down? They're like, oh, my God, that's you know, that was a shit show. That never should have happened.
Oh, it's horrifying.
Yeah, oh, yeah. And I said, well, you know, we need a bill or something to, you know, to prevent something like this from happening again.
Yeah.
You know, because they, you know, look at how it's all planning out. Look how the investigation is going. You know, it never should have gotten to this point where, you know, it's so convoluted that that this guy who brought the warrant, you know, now it's affecting so many different cases.
Yeah.
You know, that they're finding out that, hey, there's a problem with this case. There's a problem with that case.
Well, they're at the very least, they found one case thus far. And granted, they've got 1,400 to comb through, but in their glancing investigation at the very beginning,
there's one with a 72-year-old veteran.
The one that they have dismissed right now, February 25th, the second case involving Gerald Goins is dismissed, a crack cocaine possession case.
That's the 17-year-old. I think the 72-year-old veteran or something like that.
Yeah.
That was, it's a cancer patient or something?
Something like that.
Okay. Yeah, cancer patient, and he wasn't even at home, and they executed a warrant on his house and claimed they found drugs.
Sure.
Okay, because he was in the hospital.
Which, hey, granted, anybody could have been using a crack pipe anywhere in your house,
That's true. But I asked our elected officials, and I said, hey, shouldn't we, have a bill? And they said, yeah, we should. I said, well, would you consider sponsoring a bill, that does something about these no-knock raids? You know what they told me?
No.
They all said, no, absolutely not.
No.
I said, why? Because the police lobby is so huge.
Yep.
And they would come down on them very hard, and they wouldn't stand a chance for re-election.
Yeah.
Your elected officials are afraid, to make any changes whatsoever to law enforcement.
Well, let's just make it clear. Your elected officials are afraid of the police.
Yes, they are. They're even afraid of the police.
You couldn't put it more plainly. The elected officials themselves are even afraid.
Yeah, they're even afraid of the police. Not only are you, so are they. And so nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to change unless we need some oversight. Some oversight that have teeth, that has the power, to bring, charges, because these guys, someone should go to jail for this.
Yeah.
Someone needs to get the death penalty for this, because you executed this family in their home.
Yeah. And so far as we can tell, as JL was saying earlier, no criminal history on either one of them. There was a minor charge, but nothing that would have not been considered for probation or for just straight up dismissal. And that's just disturbing. That's disturbing. If anything was going on, we would have evidence by now. Like I said, whenever they said that a 357 was used to shoot the first officer through the door, the only people left were the police. Mm-hmm. Where's the 357?
Right. Where's the revolver?
Where's the revolver that was used to shoot him?
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad that this couple died. It's sad this couple probably laid on the floor of their house moaning and groaning for probably about an hour or two, begging for help. Because they didn't die initially, and that's very sad. They suffered.
Yeah.
These people suffered for at least an hour, begging for help, listening to their dog scream until the dog died, and no one came to their aid. So all we can do right now is stand up right now and kind of fight for them.
That's it. No, it's posthumous at best, but at the same time, it's one of those if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. Like that phrase comes to mind so much in life, and this is one of those that is a prime example. If you don't stand for something like this, if you don't grasp the concept of why the police can't just come bust your door down and not expect some kind of retaliation, I'm not sitting there with a gun next to me. But I know people that are.
Think of it like this. Think of it like this. For some reason, the police come to your house. They execute a no-knock raid, okay? Because they claim that maybe when they went through your trash, they found something in your trash.
Perfectly legal to do.
Because it was out in the street. Mm-hmm. That could have been associated with something illegal.
Yeah.
To make them think that possibly you were selling drugs.
Yeah.
Okay? Just a little something.
Yep.
A stem. That's all it takes. Maybe something for personal use. I don't even do marijuana. Don't even do drugs.
You can tell that by the way he says, I don't even do marijuana.
Don't even do it, right? So now
you may as well have called it reefer.
Yeah. So now they execute this warrant. They go into your home, okay? Now guess what? When they walk into the house, you have some medication in your cabinet that's expired, or some medication in your cabinet. Maybe you have some type of sickness.
Maybe your mother-in-law came and visited and left her Klonopin.
Maybe you don't have health care and you went down to Mexico to buy medicine.
Are you crazy? Who the hell does that?
You're right.
What?
Okay? Yeah.
What?
Go figure. You don't have...
I can't imagine.
You're not having health care.
What kind of country are we living in?
So you have to go down to Mexico to buy your own medicine. Guess what? You're now going to be a felon.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, it's a life-changing experience, folks. I can tell you. I wish JL was still on the line because, I myself have been through the system. With a pending felony, nothing ever happened with it because it was bunk. It was horrible. I ended up on probation and everything was dismissed. But when you go through it, it's a dehumanizing process. And I really, as someone who studied subliminal psychology, as someone who studied sociology, I really do believe that it is built to be that way.
And if you think you can trust someone who actually has drugs in their vehicle, in their police vehicle, their government issued vehicle that they have not logged in, you don't think that, oops, when they've made a mistake.
Yeah. I've just got this kicking around. I didn't take these 2 baggies of heroin straight to the station and file paperwork and put it into evidence. I'm just rolling around with it
for about a week or two.
Whatever. Totally forgot it was in there.
Right. When you're in a situation like that, that's bad. It doesn't get any worse than that. Well, and they're so complacent.
It brings to mind a lot of what we talked about last time you were on the show. With a cocaine providing police officer here in Austin, things that you said on air that got you kicked off a radio station, got you silenced as a member of the media for literally calling something out.
Oh yeah, that's it,
against the Austin Police Department. You literally called out a point of corruption, which was a point of public record. As a matter of public record, somebody filed an affidavit saying that this police officer provided cocaine.
And it's the same thing with your media. I'm telling you right now, the media is just as bad. If there's anything about law enforcement, they're going to shut it down. They're not going to say anything at all. And this guy was fired.
The prime example, quite honestly, and I'm looking forward to having them back on again, is the Las Vegas shooting. We have still yet to find out full motive from that, yet still they have utterly closed the case, wrapped it up. We left the D.B. Cooper case open for 30-something years, and that dude stole $100,000 in the early 70s. We left that case open for 30-something years, over $100,000. We have the largest mass shooting in American history with zero factual evidence as far as what the guy's motive was, and we're just going to wrap it up and go, yep, all good, solved, done. Yeah. Go ahead. I see you just saw something in the timeline. The timeline's just frightening if you go through and look at it.
It really is.
It reminds me a lot of the Las Vegas shooting timeline, where you just see things changing all the time. It's like they're doubling back and going, nope, sorry, we got this wrong. Nope, sorry, we got this wrong.
Honestly, if I was the family, I want a toxicology report.
Yeah.
I do. I swear, I tell my family, if anything ever happens to me at all, get the toxicology report.
Yep.
Number one, I don't do drugs. So that ain't, and there's nothing on anybody else. I don't care what other people do.
No, it's America.
I think I just came from the Capitol tonight, and I'm going to go back once we finish.
Advocating for people who do use marijuana.
That is correct, because I want to, we need to decriminalize marijuana and make it and legalize it here in the state of Texas. And so, what disturbs me is the search warrant returned 18 grams, like you said, of marijuana, 1.5 grams of cocaine.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, is that pain pills or something that
3.5 grams, not that I know drug math, folks, but 3.5 grams to 1/8 of an ounce, just so you know.
So this is 1.5.
So do that math.
So is this something they trampled over, they stepped on when they walked into the house?
18. So
no, that's 1.5 grams.
No, that's cocaine.
Right, of the cocaine. Right.
Yeah. But 18 grams of marijuana. So if you do that math and divide by 3,
is that a joint?
That is just over. That is just under an ounce.
So
just under an ounce of marijuana, because a drug dealer has just under an ounce of marijuana in his house. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm here to tell you right now, Michael, I've been known to have a little bit of reefer.
But what is that? We're talking like 3 joints, maybe?
Well, you're talking a couple fingers across the bottom of a Ziploc.
So 2 joints.
That's a big joint. I want to party with you, guy.
Okay, 3 joints. I don't honestly.
It's many joints, but it's nowhere near what you would call distribution.
Right.
It's not what you would consider distribution. 18 grams.
And that's justification to go inside someone's home and execute them.
Now, did it say 18 grams or ounces?
18 grams.
Okay, yeah, because if it said ounces, then we'd be talking into the pounds. You'd be talking a pound or more.
Right.
Because 16 ounces to a pound.
18 grams.
I worked in a kitchen, y'all. That's where I know all this information. That's why it comes to me so rapidly. But it is horrifying to just sit back and think about the fact that, so like you said earlier, somebody was sitting down watching TV.
The news.
Whatever. Yeah.
Watching Judge Judy go off.
God, I love Judge Judy.
And then all of a sudden, boom, bam, disoriented, smoke bomb, flash, smoke, sound, totally disoriented.
Well,
you grab your gun.
What really disturbs me is whenever you look at the pictures in this article, I didn't print them out, I deleted them so that it would print easier and be more on less pages. But when you look at the front door, dude, there's small caliber gunfire going over
into
the place,
house.
Into the house. What the? Now, like you as somebody who teaches muzzle control. Ooh. As someone who teaches line of sight, line of fire, know the target behind what you're shooting, know what's behind the target you're shooting at, is what I'm trying to say.
So either you shot at your officers while they're inside the building, or you just shoot.
You just started peppering. Yeah, after they went in, after they infiltrated the door, you just started peppering the place after you heard the first gunshots. That's basically all it boils down to, and that's frightening as hell right there. Just think about it from the point of view of the officers who just breached the door, and it's like, hey guys, y'all want to not fire behind us? Now, as someone who teaches these tactics, as someone who teaches police departments, things like that, you yourself spend some time in the military doing this kind of stuff. What are some of the techniques that are used whenever that goes down, whenever you're talking about clearing a room, whenever you're talking about communication in a situation like that? Because like we're saying, there's a difference between the average citizen who may have heard some gunfire, someone like me who may have been to the range, may have done some hunting, someone like you who may have actively seen active fire. Even a police officer seeing active fire. Of course, they have to qualify with their pistol all the time. But much like a fighter pilot in a plane, when that situation actively happens, it's a totally different situation.
Yeah, and to me, they all need retraining because you're talking about a disabled veteran, with a revolver, got off that many shots and hit officers. If you're going to stick with that story, then I question your training.
Then you got a problem anyway.
Your training is in question.
You got a problem anyway at
Absolutely.
that point.
Yeah. So you either got a training problem. So either way you put it, something's wrong here.
Yeah. Something just doesn't add up. Either you got some crap training.
Yeah. Either you guys shot each other, or your training sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. It's disturbing to say the least. And you yourself, I know you just recently had a victory in court, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've had several victories, several things that we've done here in Texas and for Texas. One thing was we were able to win the victory over the city of Austin. The city of Austin trying to prohibit license holders, the good guys, from carrying their handguns inside City Hall. And so we won that victory because they said there was no way in the world that they were going to allow.
I recall that.
Oh, yeah. Allow license holders to carry inside City Hall. So I filed a complaint with the Texas Attorney General's office. The Attorney General, did their investigation. They agreed with me that I was right under the law. The city of Austin, needs to allow, license holders to carry. So they filed a lawsuit against the city of Austin. And when the case finally went to court, like 3 years later, 15, 16, 17, 18, almost almost 4 years later, 3 years
Wow.
and some change. We finally went to court. I spent an hour on the witness stand, because the judge wanted to hear from me. He wanted to hear, let's hear what the complainant has to say.
Yeah.
So I spent an hour, on the bench there answering questions. And I tell you, you go to court, you got to be a good witness, because, everything's been done. So you got to listen to your attorney. In a situation like that, I listened to my attorney, and I kept things short. When they asked me a question, I said yes or no. And then if I wanted to feel a little sassy, I said, yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. That's being a little sassy.
That's right. That's right. Adding a little sauce to it.
And so we were able to win that case. And it was funny, because then after the everything came out, turned out that we actually won that case, and the city of Austin had to pay $9,000. I had defense attorneys around the state and in Austin calling me saying, Michael Cargill, how in the world did you get Judge Livingston, one of the liberal judges, in the state of Texas, to agree with you, and
that the city was in violation of you carrying your firearm on presence.
Right. I said,
on premises, rather.
One, I know my stuff. I know the law, and that's one thing you're not going to trip me up on. When it comes to gun stuff, I can answer those questions all day long.
It's kind of like you do it for a living.
Yeah, go figure. I've taught classes at colleges, all across the state. At Texas Tech University, the University of Texas. I taught in several informal classes at UT. I've taught classes at UT for staff, faculty, and students. Even gone to Texas A&M University. So I'm used to sitting in front of students who are, very challenging mind and will ask a ton of questions. And so, I'm used to answering all those questions, and, I felt very comfortable answering their question. And, and one of the things they asked me, well, have you ever been charged with unlawfully carrying a weapon? And I was very, happy and grateful in answering that. No, I have not. Why? Because I follow the law.
Yeah.
And I believe that that's not the time and place to argue with someone about what they're doing is right or wrong.
Yeah.
The time and place is right here where we are today in court.
Yeah, precisely. And, so often people do not realize the impact of their actions. Not only that, but what their actual rights under the law are. And it's been interesting to me over the last many years of my life to do research into that, to start looking up not just the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law and what it is about. And it's so great to know that people like you, Michael, are out there on the daily. Are you still involved with the Log Cabin Republicans?
Yes, I'm still the president for the Log Cabin Republicans of Austin. I'm also on the board of directors for the Log Cabin Republicans of the state of Texas. I'm also a precinct chair for the Republican Party, and also served as even a delegate at the state, Republican Party convention.
And that's what I love about you is your passion for involvement, your passion for community, your passion for continuing that oath that you took many, many years ago to defend the Constitution. The fact that you carry that on, not only in spirit but in action, is amazing, and I have to thank you for that. Not just for your service to our country, but for your continued service to our country in that right. And really, and I know a lot of people would argue the point of your wanting to carry a firearm on city property, in City Hall, what have you. The idea really, folks, here is that he's holding their feet to the fire. Whether it's right, whether it's wrong, it doesn't really matter. The point is, that's the law you wrote. And if that's the law you wrote, that's the law that you should abide by. And that's the law that every citizen should abide by. If you're a licensed firearm carrier and the law says you can carry your firearm beyond the security checkpoint at City Hall, why can you not carry your firearm?
And let me tell you, they were totally confused when that ruling came down. I gave them notice. I tweeted out to every media outlet that I was on my way to the Capitol, to the City Hall.
Oh, there was a big smile too.
Oh yeah, and I would be at City Hall at this particular time. So all the media outlets were there waiting to see exactly what was going to happen. So because the judge had already ruled. I said, well, let's go try it out. Yeah. So I went to City Hall, and it was actually pretty funny because when I walked into the building, they said, well, Mr. Cargill, you're going to have to walk through the metal detector. I said, well, why do you want me to walk through a metal detector? What are you looking for? What type of metal? A gun? Because I'm carrying a gun.
Yeah.
And so they said, well,
here's my ammunition.
We got to ask you to walk through the metal detector. So I walked through the metal detector, and it goes off. I said, well, now, Mr. Cargill, we're going to have to wand you. I said, why are you? Please explain to me. Can you articulate to me why are you wanding me? What are you looking for? A gun? Well, I'll give you a little hint. I'm carrying 3.
Yeah.
So then they proceed to wand me. And of course it goes off. Beep, beep, beep.
In numerous parts of your body.
I'm carrying a gun. So it's new to them, and it's very hard. The city of Austin is the liberal mecca for the entire state of Texas, so it's going to be hard for them, to figure this all out. But we're gonna, I'm gonna keep my foot on their throats until they get it right.
Well, at least until, like you're saying, that they're at the very minimum following the law that they wrote and enacted. That they wrote, put on the books, and said, yep, this is approved. That's the least you got to do, is make sure that you follow that law.
Absolutely. And man, I hate that we have to fight, and do this, so often and all the time, because this is for, for everybody. It's just not for certain types of people, because with everything that we do, you have a lot of different laws that are out there. You have a lot of people that are abusing these laws, whether they're, your
Sure.
government, or whether it's, maybe law enforcement or something like that. And so I do this so that, everyone's educated. I remember when open carry went into effect. They said, hey, You're going to be able to open carry your handgun in Texas with a license. And so the first thing that people thought was, oh my goodness, people of color.
It's going to be the Wild West.
Well, no, they thought people of color are going to get shot because they're going to be open carrying a handgun, and
police are going to go crazy.
Yeah, and the police are not going to know the laws and stuff like that. So I thought about that.
Yeah.
I said, okay, well, we need to educate them then. So
they have to know the laws in order to take advantage of them, folks.
Oh yeah. So what I did was.
I think you're missing the point.
Yeah. So what I did was I made a big stink about it. I said, you know what? What can I do, that everyone in the state will stop and think about what this law really means?
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? I'm going to go to the Texas State Capitol on day 1 before anyone thinks about it, and I'm going to walk in there openly carrying my handgun.
Yep.
I said, you know what?
And he did.
I'm going to get on the city bus, Capitol Metro, openly carrying my handgun and take a ride on city bus. I say, you know what? I'm going to walk into the bank. I'm going to walk into the bank with my handgun license, openly carrying my handgun in the bank.
Yeah.
And so when I did all this and went to these different places, that made people think about what the law actually meant and what it actually said. Because a lot of people didn't realize it. They only thought about it once I did that and open carry went into effect.
Yeah.
And so it helped. It helped a lot of police officers. They started doing classes and teaching off. They said, "Oh man, well, we need to make sure these officers know that these people can do this now."
That's right.
Officers are not, the only ones that can carry a gun now.
Yeah, and it is kind of a loaded circumstance whenever you think about that. Whenever you think about the fact that police officers, and what's really interesting is some police agencies like ours here in Austin, utterly under contract, completely and utterly privatized, not technically constitutionally bound. They aren't like the sheriffs or anything like that. So it's kind of an odd circumstance.
Yeah, shit. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's let a black guy carrying a gun.
Yeah. Openly.
And
a few of them. And that's what I love about you, is that you are no holds barred. You're unabridged. You're willing to hold people's feet to the fire and say, no, this is what you said.
Right.
So this is what is now.
Right.
And will you be carrying a sword coming up? Well, you're gonna get you a nice
I do.
samurai sword or something for whenever the sword law comes into effect?
Oh, that's already gone into effect. That went into effect.
Did it already go? That's right. It was like September.
September 1st, 2017. Right. That went into effect.
Yeah.
And so what I have a nice little Bowie knife with on one side it says Old Willow, I think it is, which is the name of the Gatlin family's little ranch or farm there that they have here, the descendants of the Gatlin family. They gave me this Bowie knife, and on the other side it says Molon Lobby, come and take them.
Yeah.
With a sword.
Yeah,
it actually has an engraving of a knife also.
Beautiful.
On it, or I should say a sword. And the reason I do the sword, I have even on my gun I'm wearing here right now, which is a Maxim 9, which is a silencer, has a silencer co on it, and it's a 9mm with a 22 round magazine.
Oh wow!
And so even with that, it has a sword on it because God said, He told His disciples, if you don't have a sword, you may want to sell your cloak and go buy a sword.
Yeah.
So even back then in those days, even God knew, Jesus knew that you may need a weapon or something like that to protect yourself.
Something may come down the pipe, and. I'm one of those coming from my background as far as hunting, things like that. I am all about owning firearms. I'm not what people would necessarily call a gun enthusiast. I enjoy shooting. It's super fun. Been looking at a couple of great target rifles, things like that, because I love shooting. But a lot of people have the misconception nowadays of assault rifle, assault weapon, things like that. What is an assault rifle? What is an assault weapon? As someone with a federal firearms license and who lives this on the daily, let's give that definition real quick.
Sure. First of all, assault is a verb. So
yes.
So if you want to grab a bat or something and assault someone with it,
that's technically an assault weapon.
Right. That's an assault weapon. That's what you're doing. So what we have, what we really have are semi-automatic, firearms, and we have automatic firearms.
Yeah.
So semi-automatic meaning that you pull the trigger one time, it shoots one round. That's going to be semi-automatic. Those are the guns that you can buy in the gun store and walk out with in 10 minutes. Now then they're automatics. You pull the trigger, hold the trigger down, it shoots multiple rounds or maybe a 3-round burst or something like that.
Sure.
Those are going to be NFA firearms. NFA, National Firearms Act firearms. And with those, you have to pay a $200 tax stamp. You have to fill out some paperwork, get your photo, your fingerprints taken. You have to turn that paperwork into the ATF, along with a trust if that's the way you're going to go. And within 10 months, they'll approve it. And then you can have that item.
And that's a far more in-depth background check.
No.
No?
Nope.
No.
It's the same background check that you get when you're buying the gun. No different background check. So if you're buying a semi-automatic or you're buying an automatic, it's the same background check. The difference is the automatic, the machine gun, or the suppressor or short barrel rifle or shotgun or AOW, any other weapon, those you're paying a $200 tax, same background check. The machine guns are registered. Suppressors are registered with the federal government. Okay. Semi-automatics are not, and then you're waiting 10 months to get them.
Okay. There you have it. And that's a big distinction. Mm-hmm. That's a large distinction. That's a big difference. I mean, right now we're talking about Academy Firearms, Academy Sports and Outdoors, facing lawsuit regarding selling a firearm to the gentleman that enacted the shooting here at the Texas church.
Right.
Right up the road, just a couple hours up the road from here, mm-hmm. Just an hour or so.
Sutherland Springs.
Yeah.
Sutherland Springs.
And, I guess that's what a lot of people have concern about whenever they see things like that, whenever they see the fact that this guy said, hey, I live in Colorado. Colorado isn't a state that allows high-capacity firearms, things like that. So how is it that kind of stuff manages to pass through a security check at an academy?
All right, so and this is a store policy that I have. We typically will not sell a gun to anyone that has a driver's license or ID from another state.
Beautiful.
Now,
Beautiful.
We can, sell rifles. So just like Academy did, this guy had a Colorado driver's license.
Sure.
And he walked into the Academy and he said, "Hey, I want to buy an AR."
Yeah.
And we could sell them the AR. Academy did. They did sell them the AR. We choose not to do that because different states have different laws that change all the time.
Yeah.
And so if I was to sell this person a gun and that gun happened to be illegal in that state, then I set myself up for a lawsuit, if something goes wrong. And which is what Academy did.
Absolutely.
So what happened was this guy walked into the Academy with a Colorado's driver's license. He came into the Academy in Texas. He purchased that rifle in Texas from Academy using a Colorado driver's license. But the problem is, in Colorado, they have a magazine capacity.
Yes.
So the magazine that came with the gun and that SKU number on the firearm shows that it was a 30-round magazine, which was illegal in Colorado. And because of that, the family members of the Sutherland Springs church shooting are now suing Academy because of the magazine, not the gun.
Exactly. And that comes down to the individual state laws, things like that. And I think that's a lot of what people misunderstand whenever it comes to federal firearm laws, state firearm laws, and the restrictions placed on quote unquote assault weapons.
And the thing that people are saying, well, you don't need to check ID for magazines. So one, they're going to have to prove that they did not swap out the magazine and give them a shorter, round magazine capacity instead of the 30 round. They have to prove that.
Sure.
And then, prove that, he didn't go to somewhere else and buy a high capacity magazine, because you don't check ID when someone walks into your store to buy a magazine.
Yeah, just for a magazine.
It's a piece,
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly. If he purchased it with the firearm, different story. If he just came in and said, "I want to purchase this magazine,"
right. And this case is not going to be settled, in this court. This case is probably going to be a case that goes up to the Supreme Court, because if I'm Academy, a big box store like that, I would take it all the way to the end, and this case is probably going to be something that be settled by the Supreme Court.
And how do you see it shaken out?
It'll be years before we find out. I honestly don't know, because I'm very curious, what's going to happen.
Yeah, because this is straight up the plot from The Runaway Juror, folks.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be
like if you remember the movie The Runaway Juror, by John Grisham, book by John Grisham, made into a movie, had Gene Hackman, all kinds of people in it, Dustin Hoffman, but the whole thing was this guy went crazy, came into his office, shot up the place with fully automatic, adapted semi-automatic firearm. And they were suing the manufacturer of the gun because they made it with a fingerprint-proof finish. So that you didn't ruin the firearm with fingerprints, things like that. And it was like, well, couldn't that be used for crimes? And it's so interesting that movie was made almost 20 years ago. Almost 20. That movie was like 98, 99.
Oh, wow.
And how future thinking. To see that now, because that really hadn't happened up to that point, where like a firearms manufacturer was taken to court.
Right.
And now we're facing that stuff. We're literally facing things like Defense Distributed here in town. Who are the people, and I'd love to do an episode with you on that at some point, about the concept of 3D printed firearms and accessories, that kind of stuff. And it's really interested to see where, from the time where I first met you many, many years ago, when they first came about, to where the story is now and to where the legal situation is now. It's been interesting to see it even take this long to shake out of the tree, and it's still not shook. It's still hanging on hard to that fruited vine.
Yeah, they're fighting hard. They're fighting a good fight. Companies like that, Defense Distributed, it's all about freedom. It's all about the First Amendment. It's what it's all about for them. And my hat's off to him. My hat's off to Cody Wilson. He's dealing with other issues, right now. And so my hat's still off with him as well. But they're definitely putting on a good fight for sure.
Well, and as we kind of wrap things up here, once again, thank you so much for coming on. I love it whenever you come on and talk about these pertinent issues facing our society with firearms, with security, with constitutional rights. The fact that you are out there on the daily, folks. I don't care what political party you belong to. I myself am a political atheist. I guess I should really say political agnostic, not political atheist. I believe in the God of political jargon. It's out there. It's a good thing. Yeah. But I'm an agnostic. I do not really ascribe to any party. I don't go out and vote a red ticket. I don't go out and vote a blue ticket. I go out and vote my conscience. Yeah. If I happen to trust this dude who's blue and that dude who's red, you know, that's who I'm voting for. I'm sorry. I am the odd cog in the machine, folks. But there are people like Michael out there on the daily, be it Republican, be it Democrat, that are out there, like you were saying, the judge that defended your case and found in your favor was the most unlikely judge in the world to find in your favor.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to bringing a firearm onto public property.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that judge found in your favor goes to show that this political agnosticism still exists, where people are more concerned about your individual right.
And even people at the Capitol are like, because of that whole case, they're just in shock. And so when I went to the Capitol today to testify against, a lot of bills, even though they hated what I was saying, because there's one bill.
They got to listen to you.
I'm not even going to tell you about it, but there's one particular bill. They were really
not
upset.
Not on air.
Yeah. No, they're just really upset about the bill. And so to the point that when the bill author came back to close out the bill, they said, well, they addressed my comments specifically. Well, Mr. Cargill said so-and-so, so-and-so. Well, I disagree with what Mr. Cargill says because da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Out of everyone that spoke.
You were cited.
They had to,
You were cited
call
in
me
precedent.
Out. Right. So it means a lot.
Don't say it like that. That does mean a lot. The fact that they called out your information and said, like, no, look, here's writing good Mr. Cargill over here said this, and he's a professional in the industry.
Right. So it means a lot, and I'm going to keep doing this, as long as I possibly can.
And
because
thank you.
This is for the people. This is for the people of Texas. And we got to stand up and fight, because if we don't, then they'll just do whatever they want to do and just run us over.
Yeah. That's just it. And we have to remember, a very good friend of mine, you met her, Julie Connolly. Shout out to you, Julie Connolly. She was talking about how she was holding one of the Democrats here locally to the fire and being like, hey, do what we elected you to do.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal how many of our elected officials do not listen to their constituents, vote the way they want to vote, despite the constituents in their district who have put them into place and paying their paycheck, crying something 180 degrees different. They will vote their own mind all day long, and it's good people like you, it's good people like Julie on the blue side of the fence, it's people like me on the purple side of the fence, square in the middle, that really have to make sure that we stay awake, that we stay vigilant.
And there's so many bills that we're working on right now. We're working on a bill that if you're a gun owner and you're renting or you're leasing an apartment, house, whatever,
that you can have your gun?
You can actually have your gun inside the apartment. They can't put it in the contract.
What's that about?
Right, that you can't do this. So we're pushing that because that's an issue here in Austin.
Oh, it's a huge issue.
People are leasing, they're renting, and they're putting in their contract that you can't own a gun for personal protection.
I'm not going to lie to you. I lied to my previous landlord.
Yeah, and that's ridiculous.
I lied to my apartment complex and told them that I had no firearms, but I'll be damned if I'm not going to have a means by which to protect my home and my family.
Yeah, so that's one bill. That's a very important bill that I'm pushing for. And then also the other one that I'm pushing for this session is going to be school-sponsored activities. What that means is if you're a licensed to carry handgun holder and you're out eating lunch somewhere at a restaurant, all of a sudden at the restaurant, a school bus pulls up in the parking lot. Kids get off that school bus. They go inside the restaurant because they're on a school field trip.
You got to go put your gun outside.
A school-sponsored activity. You're supposed to put your gun in the vehicle.
Sure.
And so that's another bill, because at the Capitol, they ignore that. Because at the Texas State Capitol, there are school field trips there every single day.
Yeah.
And they all carry guns at the Capitol.
And you've already set the precedent.
Yeah, so they ignore that. That's not the legislative intent. So what we're saying is, hey, that if you're going to participate in that activity and you're not supposed to carry a gun because you're not any resource officer or whatever, then you can't bring your gun in that activity. Not because I'm somewhere and all of a sudden the school sponsored activity shows up, I have to leave. I should have to leave.
And what's interesting, even with that, Michael, is when you're talking about school shootings, when you're talking about that kind of stuff, it's recently come out in Florida that apparently the school resource officer, and people don't understand the fact that to serve and protect does not mean with their life.
Yeah.
It does not mean with their life, folks. That means that if a criminal draws a gun, a cop is not obliged to draw his in return. Believe it or not. Believe it or not. Even though he's standing right there with you with a badge and a uniform and a gun, he is not obliged to draw it.
Yeah, there's a Supreme Court precedent that says that police have no duty to protect you.
That's
no
right.
duty whatsoever to
That's
protect
right.
you. Just a general duty to enforce the law.
That's right.
That's it. So when you dial 911, they don't have to answer.
No.
They don't have to come to your aid. So,
no, if they deem that situation too dangerous to put police officers in, they will not come.
Yeah. So you just got to understand that, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and it's going to be up to you to protect yourself, also protect your family. It's going to be up to you to make sure they don't come down with any new laws that's going to stop you from doing that. It's going to, we need to make sure we do not pass universal background checks. I'm totally against universal background checks because, like I said it before, I'll say it again. If you were convicted of a crime, something happened to you 20, 30, 40 years ago, you've been an outstanding citizen ever since then.
Yep.
If they pass universal background checks, that means you will never be able to be in possession of a firearm at all.
That means even my stuff, which was adjudicated and gotten rid of. And I'm here to tell you, folks, even though it was adjudicated and gotten rid of, it popped up when I rented my house. It popped up when I rented my apartment. And it's like, if you like, we can hop on the phone with the judge right now.
Mm-hmm.
We can hop on the phone with my attorney. We can hop on the phone with the city of Houston and find out what the state of my case is.
I was just talking to someone today, and there's even in the city of Austin, which is so liberal, this person had a problem renting an apartment because of their criminal history. I'm like, not in Austin. Not liberal Austin, where they're supposed to be accepting to everyone.
That came up immediately. I was almost refused. Whenever I moved to Austin to get engaged,
so
man.
Austin's not so liberal after all, huh?
And literally, the first thing that happened when I was like, well, we should probably do the right thing and put me on the lease. I've been here for 4 months now. I should probably be on the lease. So we went to go add me to the lease, and they're like, oh, well, you have this prior, and I'm like, I have no priors. I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. I have never been convicted of anything. Yeah. So I don't know the felony prior of which you speak because I don't have any priors.
Right.
I've purchased firearms in the last 2 years, so I'm pretty sure I can rent your apartment.
Right. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
You're my only hope. And, with that in mind, thank you so much once again for coming on. I love it whenever you come on, Michael. You are such a ray of common sense when it comes to this stuff. It's just the law, and there's the law, and why aren't you following the law?
Right.
There's really not a whole lot of questions.
If they don't like it, go to the Capitol and change it.
That's it. Tell everybody where they can go to find out more about log cabin Republicans, how to get involved with the new marijuana laws that are going on, the new requests with our state government to decriminalize things, make things easier for research, try to get people off of that, I guess, government paperwork for non-critical offenses, and where they can go to find out more about gun training, things like that with Central Texas Gun Works.
All right, so I'm also the executive director for Texas for Accountable Government, which is a transpartisan organization.
With that everywhere, dude.
Yeah, with that organization there, we're that's the organization that we're actually pushing to decriminalize, legalize marijuana. Also, lower offenses for, nonviolent offenses, things of that nature. We're trying to change some things in the state to protect people. Like I said today, law enforcement, they have a lot that's working for them. The whole system is designed to protect law enforcement. The judge is designed to protect the police officer, the jury, the court, the DA, all that's, in line, even including the internal affairs designed to protect the police officer. But there's nothing there that's designed to protect we, the people. And so we need to start focusing on we, the people, and start taking care of the citizens of this state. And so that is why I'm also you can go to tagtexas.org and check our website out there at Texas for Accountable Government. You can go to the Law Academy Republicans of Austin, just Google it, whatever, and check us out there. You can go to Central Texas Gunworks and definitely support my page there, because it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot, to fight a lot of these cases, for one. And so just supporting us is all I ask. I'm not asking for donations or anything like that. Just supporting us, I think is the most important thing.
Yeah, share the message. If it's something that, like I share y'all's stuff all the time. If it's something that you believe strongly in, if it's something that you think he is doing proper for the community, proper for the rights of citizens of Texas, proper for the rights of citizens everywhere, share it, folks. That's what it's about.
Yeah, so you can go to CentralTexasGunworks.com. You go to the Facebook page, all that stuff, Central Texas Gunworks, and you'll find us. However combinations, you want to look it up, you can look up Syntex Guns, and it'll pop up, to our website. So, definitely check us out there and all the different organizations, because it's all about the people and protecting the people and, empowering us, the people, so we can protect ourselves and empower ourselves. And so, I always tell people, hey, more guns equals less crime. So go out there and buy yourself a gun.
Well, and not just that, like we say on this show all the time, it's the fact of you're already empowered. The people who are not empowered are the people in power, believe it or not. We're the ones with the power. We're the ones that voted them into office. We're the ones that can hold them to task, like people like Michael here are on the daily, on the state-wise. Like, he's actively paying money out of his own pocket to go put a case before the state court, and to have it heard, and to fight for individual rights. And if that's not somebody who believes in something, I really don't know what is in this day and age.
Especially a lawsuit, where we on my radio show, Come and Talk It.
Oh my God.
We bring up issues, of corruption and stuff like that. So I have a police officer, a senior member of the Austin Police Department, that filed a lawsuit against me because of the radio show. Yeah. And so that's another case that we have to fight, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Who's been reinstated.
No,
right?
Not yet.
No? Okay, I know
But
they were talking about it.
He's trying to. He's trying to get reinstated.
Okay.
But he's, been fired by the Austin Police Department, a senior member of the Austin Police Department, by everything that was said on my radio show.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Held liable for slander.
Yeah. So
supposedly.
Yeah.
Not found liable for slander, folks.
So
that
we'll
was
see.
the case against him.
Yeah, so we're still fighting that case. It's still ongoing. Because we're
well, I didn't mean to pinch you there.
Oh no, we're gonna definitely get that taken care of for sure.
Yeah,
because we're gonna stand strong. I'm not gonna compromise at all.
No,
with that, because I didn't do anything wrong.
Hey,
the other person did something wrong, they need to pay.
If these good people in Houston were shot in their own home after a police officer said they dealt heroin and it was never found, the real fact of the case is this cop actively provided somebody coke. Straight up. There's no doubt about it. It happened. And that's been found. So the fact that he's even going for reinstatement is horrifying.
Yeah.
And kudos to you for continuing that good fight. Once again, go make sure to stop on by and check out Come and Talk It Radio. You can find that on 1370 AM here in Austin. Make sure to go and check out all the great stuff at Central Texas Gunworks. They have some fantastic safety classes awesome conceal and carry classes, as well as some great products. If you are a shooting enthusiast or a hunter, that is definitely the place that you should go to check things out. Michael Cargill, once again, thank you for coming on the show as always. Remember, everybody, until next time, if you can't be good, be like the police and be good at it. And remember, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Until next time, everybody, we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Dudes and Beer Podcast. To listen to our audio streams or chat with us live, download the official Dudes and Beer app for Android and iDevices, available on Google Play and iTunes markets. For more episodes, content, and information, visit us online at dudesandbeer.com. You can also find our episodes on Breach.tv, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the HC Universal Network family of podcasts. For more about our sponsors and other podcasts on this network, visit hcuniversalnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.